Hey, isn't AEW one of the greatest highlights every week for us as professional wrestling fans, or what? Did this not feel like a go home almost to a pay per view? In my personal opinion, it did. So let me talk to you. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good night, whenever you may watch this too. My name is Noah Foster, and I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling. Excuse me, I almost trained my voice tonight. I had so much fun. And I'm here to give you my simple outlook, recap, and simple take on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite from April 28th. And this is being recorded 10:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't already, I encourage you to go check out No DQ's recap by Aaron Riff. If you want to join in the conversation and support AEW, go check out their post show and leave them a nice chat. Or, support anybody that you know that might be all elite or is a humble, positive wrestling fan, honest and open-minded too. At the end of the day, let's just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling, even AEW. And I feel like AEW definitely deserves that moniker. So let me go ahead and break it down for you briefly and what happened tonight. So tonight's festivities open with Hangman Adam Page, the number one ranked wrestler in AEW, taking on the FTW champion representing Team Taz in the Machine, Brian Cage. And I must admit, this was a pretty good back and forth, or so I thought it would have been, because literally as Hangman Page came out, he got berated and blasted from behind by Team Taz in their entirety while Taz was on commentary. And it was ended emphatically with a vicious power bomb on the entranceway. Ouch! Before the match can even start. Already Hangman Page going into this match way less than 100%. So clearly Team Taz, they had a plan based on what happened last time Team Taz had an outing. So as Ricky Starks was unable to beat the Cowboy, as this match goes on, Hangman Page, he fought valiantly, including surviving some ridiculous spin-out F5 type maneuvers, some ridiculous hard lariats in the corner. But believe it or not, folks, even after going over the top and with a beautiful outside moonsault, always finds the mark with that. He does make a fatal mistake and eventually tries to go for buckshot lariat, but gets denied. Brian Cage basically barrels him, finally sets him in position, and believe it or not, folks, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this too. This was a shocker to me. Drill Claw and the Machine, Brian Cage, has now beaten the number one ranked wrestler in AEW. Hangman Page has finally fallen to somebody. So here's the way I look at this. The Machine, Brian Cage, representing FTW. Taz wants to bring up the prestige of the FTW name, FTW title, and also prove that he is a great mentor at the same time, especially regarding Christian Cage turning down his offer. Brian Cage with the biggest win yet in his AEW career, and we wonder if the Hangman has been on this non-stop course heading for Kenny Omega and the AEW World Championship. Well, it looks like he stumbled on a roadblock, and we got to wonder how this will affect him in the rankings now, too, for those that follow rankings where win and losses matter. Number 2 is Orange Cassidy. Folks, there's a potential you might get based on what happens, not just tonight, but going forward. Orange Cassidy and Kenny Omega, and I can see Kenny Omega really swerving us like that, too, based on his character, taking Orange Cassidy likely. That might be a match waiting to happen, but we got to think about this. Him and Adam Page, friends, it seems, with the Dark Order, getting over the whole Matt Hardy feud, it seems, as Matt Hardy just looks at the Dark Order and not the Cowboy anymore. But the Hangman finally ate a loss. How do you overcome and bounce back from this? Well, I'm not sure essentially how in singles-wise, unless he challenges the Machine again, if he dares to, or maybe he'll drink it off. But based on what happened later in the night, I can see a potential tag match coming up, too. This was a very surprising opening result, to say the least, and I got to give credit to Brian Cage. Big-time win, and a good win followed from last night, too, on Dark when he faced someone you might remember from Lucha Underground in Marty the Moth Martinez, also known as Marty Casas. And I hope to see more of him on Dark, too. Good opening match, and whether or not you like the sneak attack beforehand, it worked to their advantage. Cage got the win. And to be fair, during the match, there was no shenanigans. They took care of it beforehand, so I guess you could say it was a clean, fair win. Sort of. Anyway, we move on from there and go backstage out to a very nice but cramped limousine that had all of the elite, the Young Bucks, the Good Brothers, Kenny Omega, and Don Callis. As the Young Bucks, of course, they went on their merry way. And, of course, Kenny Omega was hyping up the fact that he is now 4-belt Omega, as he now is a champion of 3 promotions. And we will see the celebration for his Impact Championship win tomorrow night on Impact Wrestling. I suggest you go to Twitch and watch it for free. If you've never watched Impact Wrestling before, you're going to want to tune in just for this, if nothing else, I believe. But also, give Impact Wrestling a chance. Great product, great show, great roster, great talent. Anyway, moving on from there, they were not sweating, what happened with the Super Elite trailer and John Moxley and the Kings of the Show, it seemed, until beep, beep, they all literally basically slowed, they got scared when MT Nakazawa was, of course, seen driving the front of the limousine and basically said, well, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Yeah, wrong button pushed the gear, scaring the Super Elite. Oh, sure, you don't sweat John Moxley and the Kings at all. Now, the thing is, do they sweat them, or are they basically scared maybe of a vehicle? Just a couple things, to think about. Anyway, I digress. Moving on from there, though, we go straight back to the ring as the Bucks were leaving ahead to go into their tag team match, as they took on the Sydal brothers. Matt and Nick Jackson took on Mike and Matt Sydal, who are not even ranked at this point, it seems, but potentially being the champs could have led to them having an AEW Tag Team Championship opportunity. And it was a really strong and hard-fought fight by all four men, as it looked like in the early going, the Sydal brothers were getting the better of the Bucks here. Matt Jackson being a little bit frustrated, you can tell. But as time held on, I'm pretty sure Rick Knox, conspiracy theory, I know how close he is to the Bucks. He should have noticed that freaking Twin Magic early on in that freaking match, which of course gave the Bucks the advantage. And they followed trying to go for the Indie Taker later on, but that didn't happen. Really close near fall, though, following a double Meteora, super kick exchange galore among both men. Good counter to one roundhouse kick with another wicked super kick, then a ridiculous side kick to the head at one point. And then literally a crucifix counter to one of the Bucks moves nearly gave the Sydal brothers the 3-count win. But in the end, this new Bucks attitude did lead to them to prevail, what Don Callis was in commentary with behind the red's back when all chaos was ensuing in this crazy agility-driven melee. The low blow punch channeling a freaking Street Fighter-powered fist and position by the Bucks literally stopped Sydal in his tracks and set him up for a BTE trigger cover, and the Young Bucks got the win, pitting Max Sydal. So much for that, and you gotta wonder now if the feud between the Sydal brothers and this elite, or super elite, as you can call it that, we'll just call it the elite, because elite's forever, right? Anyway, you gotta imagine now that they will put the Sydal brothers in the rearview mirror regarding what happened back at the house show. The house always wins, because that's really where this came out from. And of course, the continuation of their feud going through matches on AEW Dark Elevation. But we weren't done there. As the #1 ranked team in AEW, SCU, Christopher Daniels and Frank Kazarian, friends from a past generation of Bucks, if you might say. They basically came out and chastised the Bucks, saying that they don't appreciate their attitude. These are not the friends they came in to build AEW with, and they believe that it's time that these two bitches find their balls and challenge the #1 ranked tag team, who are here to get them out of position and bring the tag title go to them. Once again, proving they're all or nothing vendetta. Really, at this point, there's nothing left but for them to contest for the titles. And again, if SCU loses, that's it for the team. They're done forever, as they literally have made this promise to themselves. So I think we got a tag team championship match ahead of us, too. Now, will it happen sooner than Double or Nothing, which is just under a month away? We're going to have to wait and see. But talk about chastising the Bucks and their character to wear your balls. Well, balls are in the Bucks' court. They just have to name the time and the place. But will they? Or will Don Callis, the invisible hand, influence this and say, no way? We'll have to wait and see. Moving on from there, we get another vignette regarding Jade Cargill, that she is that bitch, but I like to call her, based on a song I once heard, Miss Independent, as truly she's not about building like cheap little products around herself or, getting some money. She wants to be the draw, the focus, the brand. They have to make it work for their while. And of course, we have vignettes of the managers in AEW, including not limited to Vicky Guerrero and Big Money Matt Hardy. So again, you gotta wonder, will one of those two or somebody else actually build a deal worthy of Jade Cargill for their own stable? Or will Jade continue to tease and continue to be a freelancer, as being the most popular freelancer, so by AEW it seems? We'll have to wait and see. And of course, she's coming off that win from a Red Velvet. Has not been in action since. You gotta wonder what her next match will be too. Anyway, moving on from there, we go into this was a wild match to say the least. So many kicks. Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy with Trent in his corner. He took on Penta Esilmiera with Alex Cablejantes in his corner, providing more than just subtle translation, it seems. Very effective in his role, too, I will say. Anyway, as this match started off, we knew the one thing that Orange Cassidy was going to go for, and that was the hands in the pockets. But Penta's like, no, we're not going to do that. Realize who you're in the ring with. Cyril! Hierro. And this went on for a good 2 or 3 minutes before finally Penta tosses the glove to Alex, who misses. Bad move, bro. But then Orange Cassidy follows up, tossing the glasses to Trent. And I'm not even sure if Trent tried to catch the glasses. And you also have to wonder, is Orange Cassidy, is that what he wanted? But anyway, eventually, following this, the hands were finally in the pockets and Orange Cassidy engaged. And boy, did he. Literally getting the better of Penta with a drop kick, followed by a kip up, literally over the top, and got the better of him. And then as they finally slowed down momentum, Orange from the control, as he goes to the camera, Penta literally grabs his thumb and tries to bite it off. I guess Penta's a fan of finger food. Then again, is the thumb a finger? I'm not an anatomy guy, so I don't know. Anyway, this was a crazy back and forth wild exchange. Nearly ended off a pump handle driver in the early going after a striking exchange that was ridiculous among the two for a nice near fall. And then literally Penta was like, I had enough, going back to Lucha Underground roots. He was willing to claim an arm, but it was the fight for the arm versus the hand going into the pocket, screw rope break. But Orange Cassidy eventually did get the arm in the pocket, denying Penta that arm breaker. Of course, Penta then beat the hell out of his arm because of that. And then following this, Orange Cassidy was able to finally garner some offense, including that top rope super DDT, and then even a beach break. But unfortunately, and kudos to the ref, by the way, in this, the beach break did not have firmly Penta's shoulders down on the mat. I have to imagine this due to exhaustion. This felt like one of the longer matches of the show. And this was after Orange Cassidy already ate a Canadian destroyer. Good Lord. Then following this exchange, Orange Cassidy, he once again gets the better of Penta, swings around and hits the stun dog. Stun dog stutter, excuse me. And then DDT follow-up. Then Alex, he tries to come into play and literally tries to tirade Orange Cassidy verbally, but it looked like he couldn't get his words out as Orange took the mic from him, and we think Trent was going to get involved too. But no. Orange literally brought Alex to the ring, and I thought Alex was about to get his face broken. As Alex crosses the corner in fear, and the ref tries to get Alex out of the ring, it was the best friend that took advantage this week of the same weapon Alex used last week, as Trent, I'm going to just say it like the actual question marks thing, Trent, got the microphone, gave it to Orange, and Orange delivered a mic-induced orange punch to Penta, followed by literally the cover for the win. So now the best friends finally have a one-up in this feud, as the best friends continue to feud with the Death Triangle. So where do we go from here? Well, I gotta imagine Penta's gonna be furious, and Penta will probably want another piece of one of the best friends. Considering Ray Phoenix has already beat Chuck, and Penta has beaten Trent but not Orange, you gotta imagine that Penta's gonna want a piece of Chuck again, or do we revisit this? Or even crazier, do we get a tag match and potentially Alex tries to show us maybe what he can do in the ring, and we get Alex and Penta maybe versus Trent and Orange, or maybe Trent and Chuck? Or do we just get Lucha Brothers versus the best friends? There's many different ways this dynamic can go, and I gotta imagine Pac is also infuriated as well. Also, by the way, in the top 5 rankings, I believe he is number 3. There's many different ways I see this feud going, but so far I'm enjoying it. And I must say, Alex, you weren't very effective this week, but you continue to drive it forward, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about what Penta says following this match. But this was a really good stuff. And again, Orange Cassidy, he continues his role. I think he actually is undefeated right now still in singles action for the year 2021. So kudos to him. Anyway, as we move on from there, we go backstage and we find Tony Schiavone's best friend. And yes, I do have the new DMD shirt. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. She finally comes in, ecstatic, and says that she backs up what she says because she's a role model. And yes, folks, she is number 1 in the ranking. So all that stands between her and truly being the face of AEW is the Women's Championship. The Carlos Shida awaits. We're just waiting for a day and time. So finally, will AEW be DMD? We're just going to have to wait and see. There wasn't much more to say about this besides Britt Baker bragging and overall excitement. So good luck to her in the inevitable championship match to come. And I'm sure she's going to have a lot more to say next week because she will be involved in next week's show, which we will talk about very soon. Moving on from there, we go into what was definitely the segment of the night, in my opinion, as we had the parlay between the Pinnacle, who came up with their own private security, and of course, the Inner Circle, who came out with a biker gang for backup. Back in black, as they said, in the face to, of course, the Jacksonville choir singing, including me. St. Judas, sue me. Anyway, they came out here, and initially we learned the rules of Blood and Guts. It will start with one man, respectively, from each team for a 5-minute interval. And then every 3 minutes or 2 minutes, I have to double check the official rules, folks. Sorry. Another man, alternating from each team, will come out until all 10 men, that's right, folks, 5 men per team, are inside the 2-ring caged enclosed structure. Then following that, the only way to win is by submission. Your team has to give up. So with that being said, we try to figure out who would be getting the advantage here via coin toss. Well, Sean Spears denies that completely and claims that the Pinnacle deserves this advantage because they already claimed that they are better than them. And they know it. Words of MJF. But it was actually the Inner Circle that claimed, okay, yeah, you can have it. But honestly, Sean Spears, what are you besides a failure? You've been a failure here since you came to AEW, and you were a failure before in your other company you were under too. Oh. Y'all remember a certain Perfect 10 that was involved, highest point NXT TakeOver Toronto against Bobby Roode, lost in the opener too. Sammy Guevara was some fire tonight, but he kind of was not wrong. He was kind of right. And as he continued to tirade the Pinnacle and says that not only will the Inner Circle win, I will literally take all of you on. In fact, I will be literally the very first man to enter this match. Sammy Guevara, balls of steel. Anyway, it was confirmed that, yep, the Pinnacle will have the advantage. So following the first interval, it'll be another Pinnacle member that will come out. Anyway, moving on from there, it was FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood who tried to make it personal against Proud and Powerful, claiming that they're not wild pit bulls. They are tame domestic pets that have been spayed and neutered. And literally, it was Dax who tried to make it personal about Ortiz's kid, literally saying that Daddy will not be coming home to his darling family. And this really triggered them. In which case, Proud and Powerful says, oh, don't worry, you're not going to get this. You're going to get the Proud and Powerful that's out to destroy. The Proud and Powerful that's out to break your neck. The Proud and Powerful that is the best, the best, the best. So clearly you see who Proud and Powerful have their eyes towards. Anyway, moving on from there, we go into the promo of promos between the main two. As MJF basically said, thank you to Chris Jericho, how he is a pillar, foundation of this company, carries this company on his back through exhaustion and all, and claims that Jericho has the highest pressure put forth on him should he fall. But MJF said that he is here to take what Jericho has because he believes he should be in that spot. And once he does, he will once again tell Jericho, thank you for everything that I have taken from you, not what you have given me. But then Jericho, once again, with the Immortal promo, talks about everything he's done up to the point he was 25, and everything that he's done, he did out of respect. He earned it and deserved it, and that is why he is here where he is now. While MJF feels self-entitled off the inheritance that his parents gave him when he turned 18, and the fact that he feels like he is a 25-year-old prodigy. And it was Jericho that says, you think you're blood and guts? No, we are blood and guts. And you're going to have to kill us to make us surrender. So literally, guys, they say the worst shit to come. If 2020 was, the year of basically, what do you call it? The Inner Circle or something like that. It was some sort of reference last year. He said the summer of 2021 is going to be the summer of violence. And it's going to come very soon. Oh, that's right. He made a reference to Bryan Adams, the best of summer of '69. Well, this summer, coming soon as next week, it's going to be the summer of violence. And it starts off with Chris Jericho in their circle kicking the Pinnacle's asses. Holy hell, this match is going to be bloody insane. And I can't freaking wait for it. Now we go back into the ring and we find MT Nakazawa with a headset and a Dell microphone. That's a Dell microphone. You can't freaking fool me based on what happened earlier with the whole horn thing, Kenny Omega. And of course, Eddie Kingston, John Moxley, Kenny Omega knew they were there tonight. They were there looking for him. Fight. No. You fight Nakazawa. So Eddie Kingston came out. He saw, he's like, no, I'm not doing this. Where's Kenny Omega? I'm not doing this. And suddenly, Kenny Omega did finally come out. Nakazawa tried to take a cheap shot with the laptop, which he did. But then he eats a spinning back fist for his troubles. Serves you right for using a Dell product. Worst products in existence. There, I said it. Anyway, as we move on from there, literally Kingston was going to force Omega's hand and say, you get in here or I'm going to break this man damn's ankle like you and your boys tried to do to me. And Ken Omega's like, oh, you know what? He knows what he signed up for. Go ahead and do it. But then again, you should know, I don't travel alone. I have a crew. Come on, boys. And then next thing you know, we see Cutler thrown out, the young boy, as they call him. And we're wondering what the hell happened to him and who comes out behind Kenny Omega. But John Moxley, who gets the better of Kenny Omega and literally throws that man in the ring as Don Callis looks on from the stage trying to call up for somebody, but nobody comes out. And literally, we have hostile negotiations here as we try to meet a happy median. As literally Kingston and Moxley threaten to break Kenny Omega's ankle, and Don Callis is begging them and telling them, don't do that. You don't want to do that. Well, you're going to literally give us what we want. Yes or no. It's not about we can make this work. It's about you literally give it to us or we break his damn ankle. And they nearly did. But Don Callis did give in to John Moxley and Kingston's demand, and it was simply this. And it is official. Next week, John Moxley and Kingston will take on in tag team action MT Nakazawa and Kenny Omega. So now this war between these budding two continues. And again, I feel at the heart of it, it's got to be, John Moxley and Kenny Omega still, but I feel we're setting up Eddie Kingston versus Kenny Omega, but I digress. And literally, we almost had Mr. Four Belts himself with a broken ego of his celebration. That would have sucked. And Don Callis, he was in a spot where the invisible hand had no control or grip on the situation. Talk about being the most vulnerable he has been since being on AEW. Much, I imagine, to Tony Schiavone's delight. As we continue forward, now that we know what's to come next week from these rivalries, we now go backstage and we find Brian Cage, of course, being praised by the leader of Team Taz, Taz himself. Talking about how big this was for the Machine, Brian Cage, to beat the #1 ranked wrestler in AEW, and also sending a message, of course, to one Christian Cage, who got lucky last week based on one mistake that Will Hobbs made. Now, before Taz can say anything else, basically, Christian Cage, he stops him down his tracks and says this. He gets what he's trying to be. He claims he was one of the best, but nowadays he has boys to do his work for him. And he claims that, honestly, the people in Team Taz probably be better off without you. And if you truly want to put me up against all Team Taz, then I will knock them down one by one. You got to imagine that Brian Cage versus Christian Cage has become soon. And I can see this devolving into Cage and Adam Page versus Cage and, I don't know, maybe Starks. I mean, Starks did give that subtle stare to Christian Cage. And I feel like Christian Cage definitely believes that more so than anybody else in that team, that Starks could be better off without Taz. But I feel that's also a matter of interpretation. But again, Taz left speechless, and I'm pretty sure left bitter and angry. And we'll have to see what comes out from this. And again, congratulations to the Machine, Brian Cage, being him and Adam Page. I did not see that. But also, there was a subtle note I want to take away from what Christian said backstage. You know, this whole thing about win or lose, he simply believes in win and learn. There might be more than meets the eye when it comes to that motto, especially when it comes to his opponents. Maybe some of his opponents should take that in the heart too. I wonder if he was directly talking to maybe, I don't know, Team Taz. Just saying. Will Hobbs. Anyway, as we move on from there, we go back into the ring for in-ring action as the women take center stage as a match over a year in the making, and a very good dynamic match, too, that I was definitely looking forward to. The Galaxy's greatest alien, Chris Statlander, returns to Dynamite once again, this time with Orange Cassidy in her corner. You could have asked for a better setup duo. As they take on Penelope Ford, the super bad girl, who has been on an incredible singles run, I might add, when it comes to her wrestling matches, with Kip Sabian in her corner. And these two did not waste any time going right into the ring, tearing into each other. We have a physical melee and lockup in the very beginning. And then following this, we get eventually Penelope Ford does regain control, spinning Chris Statlander on the apron and having her eat a vicious forearm. And literally, it was Chris Statlander getting the better of these exchanges, and there was a boop followed by a forearm as well later on. There was a nice near fall with a nice sit-out powerbomb by Statlander, but it wasn't enough. As Penelope Ford did take advantage after Chris Statlander was talking about Kip Sabian, I'm sure uncensored based on what she said in that Road 2. It was Penelope Ford that took advantage from this point, literally running Chris Statlander turnbuckle to turnbuckle, trapping her in the ropes, even getting a kiss off. For Pete's sake, that's unnecessary. And as this match continued on, and it looked like that Ford was getting the better of the two, she got a flipping net breaker pulled off, a nice near fall, but took a little longer to hook the leg. Then Chris Statlander gets the better of Penelope Ford with her unorthodox style and pulls out a new move that got to be known as the Solar Eclipse. Into the cover, kick out. I thought this was it, actually. But it wasn't to be, as it looked like Penelope Ford might be getting the better of Chris Statlander here towards the end, but Kip sensed urgency. And by the way, earlier the kiss, Orange, I could just tell, was like, what the hell, man? I agree. Seriously, do we need that? No, we don't. It was Kip in the end who tried to play the difference maker, but Orange, just staring at him, seemed to have stopped Kip in his tracks. And as Ford seemed confused by this, Ford goes for a traditional handstand springboard cutter, but gets caught. And it's the alien Chris Statlander who sets her up, takes her around orbit, and plants her with the Big Bang Fury while Kip is still distracted, realizes what's happening, but too late. Cover, and it is Chris Statlander who continues the roll in her return and gets the win. And then afterwards, boops as well, Penelope Ford. This was a really great competitive back and forth match with, again, both these ladies, gymnastics, athletic backgrounds come into play here. And I really enjoyed this and knew that it would be a very good match. And again, I really love how much more focus they are putting into women's wrestling in AEW. Not just Dynamite, but what you see on Elevation and Dark too. They've had some banger matches across all three platforms this week. Rhea Nami and Legit later hers taking on Amber Nova and Diamante from Elevation. And of course, Danny Jordan versus Kylan King stole the show, in my opinion. Definitely good competitive match. Great up-and-comers last night on Dark. I really enjoyed this, and all I can say right now is you wonder if this budding feud between Ford and Chris is over, and will be the next time we see maybe Ford in ring action, because it's like she takes times between when they book her and in ring action. How does this hurt her in the rankings? And will Chris continue to move forward up in the rankings maybe? And will we eventually see maybe Chris versus Britt? Because I feel like that's a one-on-one that never happened that still needs to. There's a number of one-on-ones that have yet to happen with Britt Baker that I feel like need to due to circumstances. But I digress. Anyway, really good match, and congratulations to the best friends. Continue to move forward, and Chris Statlander, good on you. Anyway, as we move on from there, we go into a battle of the nightmares as the Nightmare Factory apparently played some Grand Theft Auto and took Cody's Nightmare Family Express vehicle into the ringside area, as literally all four of the factory enter in. QT, Nick Morado, Aaron Silva, and of course, Anthony Ogogo, the one not even involved in this match. But then out of nowhere, we get the Nightmare Family, represented by Lee Johnson, a bandaged up Billy Gunn, and an infuriated Dustin Rhodes come out like a bat out of hell and immediately go after these men, to the point they're brawling on the outside of the ring. It was Lee Johnson who was definitely getting the most out of this exchange with QT following the cutter that happened on Dark, as the two were butting on the outside, but it was QT who gained advantage, pushing him in the barricade, and the ring and getting him back in the ring. And then eventually Lee got the tag into Billy Gunn when control was established, and Billy Gunn was being worked on, of course, with the exposed ribs by the beast, I like to call him, Nick Camarado. Eventually, though, he does get the hot tag into Dustin, who changes all the momentum, taking it to Camarado and QT and Solo all on his own. Things were looking very good here during this match. And by the way, beautiful corkscrew plancha over the top, executed perfectly by Big Shy Lee Johnson, who looked like he was going to get the win here in the end until chaos ensued, and Anthony Ogogo, he came into play with that golden right fist punch, not only punching the side of Lee Johnson, but also the bandage up Billy Gunn, further extenuating the damage to those ribs. And it's QT who takes the advantage and gets the win in the end, pinning Big Shiley Johnson. And basically they were about to leave and they were done with their damage there. Anyway, Austin and Conan Gunn, they come out though, and they take out QT, who is still tirading and of course berating the Nightmare family. And literally at this point, we got an all-out melee as the Factory comes back out playing QT runs like a scolded dog. As QT runs like a scolded dog. By the way, at one point, they're really stopping a muddle him. Shout out to good old JR. QT was about to go back into that bus, but who was in the bus store waiting? The American Nightmare, Cody. Cody is back, and boy, is he infuriated. As the ringside crowd, including Aubrey, went to that bus area, and we find QT and Cody literally brawling alongside the bus. Cody wearing, of course, Nightmare, what is it, chalk line jacket, taking it off, just wearing a tank top, and literally he was in fight mode tonight. I can only hope this means he's going to bring out the original version of his Fiend, but I digress. Anyway, QT does get the advantage, breaks the eyes, and literally climbs. He faces up to safe as they get up the top of the bus. Aubrey too. Yeesh. But it is Cody who further extends his point and literally traps QT in a figure four leg lock on top of the bus, and we see QT tapping out immediately, as the inevitable one-on-one between QT and Cody was bound to happen. And following this, it was made official. Next week, we have a hell of a lineup, as Blood and Guts, folks, will not just be a one-match show, as some people put it. It is much more than that. We have Cody versus QT next week in singles action. Omega and MT Nakazawa will take on Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston in tag action. Britt Baker will also be, I believe, in action too, or will have something to say. Sure, one of the two. We, of course, have the Blood and Guts match between the Pinnacle and Inner Circle, but we also have a four-way eliminator tag, of course, pushing forward, who could potentially challenge the Young Bucks next for the tag titles. But I must segue to something else that was also announced following the tag match that involves Jon Moxley. For those that follow New Japan Pro Wrestling, Jon Moxley is the current IWGP United States Champion, and he called out his next challenger. He would like to challenge former IWGP Heavyweight Champion Blue Justice, Yuji Nagata. And Yuji, of course, has accepted via satellite a few weeks back. We were wondering when this match would take place. We were wondering what the follow would be to this, as there's been no follow-up on the Road to Dantaku or the Seino Nakume or on NJPW Strong. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how the hell they pull it off, I do not know. But not next week, but the following week, May 12th, we will have Jon Moxley on AEW Dynamite defending the IWGP, I'm so damn excited, United States Championship against Blue Justice, Yuji Nagata himself. We are getting the Death Rider versus Blue Justice for the IWGP United States Championship on May 12th on AEW Dynamite. I cannot believe this. It is absolutely phenomenal, the visionary and the moves and the outreach that AEW is trying to achieve in bringing professional wrestling together, where competition is good for all, not just focused on one, and raising the entire identity of the professional wrestling game. This is phenomenal, and I cannot believe that this is actually happening. I could not be more excited, especially considering that Jon Moxley successfully defended the IWGP United States Championship against Kenta in a hell of a banger man event on NJPW Strong, which you can watch at NJPWWorld.com. I highly encourage it. Anyway, as I was so damn excited and I got my voice back, we do finally go also backstage. Kip Sabian, he goes and finds Miro, and it looks like he was trying to, say something to Miro or reach out to him, and Miro just looks on. Well, Miro basically unleashed hell. I can only imagine how long he was pent up too. He literally says, "No one's going to hold me back. I'm not even going to be held down by you. Don't ever leave me waiting." And he basically emphatically ended this segment, throwing Kip Sabian around like a rag doll and probably making it more difficult for Kip Sabian to play video games for a long time, breaking his hand practically by slamming it in a door. So I think it's safe to say that the best man relationship with Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, and Miro is game over. Now, where does Miro continue from here on his pursuit towards gold? We'll have to wait and see. But talk about a wild-ass night so far in AEW Dynamite as we now go to our main event, the headline match of the show for the TNT Championship. As Preston, and there was a sub vignette early on, Preston said, "This is the biggest match of his career. He's going to do it for Roy Lee, who was his biggest inspiration, and Darby Allin. You best get ready for a fight. I am 100%, and I'm ready. Preston, 10, Vance of the Dark Order. He took on Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. The Dark Order was in Preston Vance's corner, while Sting, of course, was in Darby Allin's corner. And clearly we know that Darby Allin and the Dark Order and Sting, they seem to be on mutual terms, especially after all the fallout with the Hardy family office. And, of course, what recently has been known as Ethan and Scorpio Sky with their cheap sneak attacks afterwards, too. This was a really good competitive back-and-forth match in the early going. It was Preston who was controlling it with his power, but Darby Allin got the better of the man, trapping him in a Fujiwara armbar and keeping him grounded even when Preston was fighting out of it. Then going for a little bit of drip manipulation, trying to bend the hand backwards. And then things got a little bit more chaotic after Preston literally ragdolled the man into ridiculous power slams throughout this match. As we do find these two men on the outside of the ring, it was the Dark Order and Sting in neutral corners that were making sure it still stayed, one-on-one, but also rooting for their own guys in their own way. As Darby Allin at one point literally takes out Preston Vance and Allen Fight Angels, who was checking on his partner and friend from the top rope after a ridiculous moonsault. It was almost, you felt like maybe the Dark Order and Sting were going to come to blows, but they didn't. And, of course, they got Allen Fight Angels up and away from the action, too. As this kept going on, though, and Sting was seeing what the Dark Order was going to do, out from nowhere from behind, in a pink shirt nonetheless, definitely noticeable. I guess the ref didn't see it. All Ego Ethan Page comes out with a cheap shot, cheap attack against Darby Allin, throws him into the ring, and Preston, he's not even aware what happened, but he kind of sees it as like, this is where I'm not sure what to do, because Preston did not want to win this way, clearly. But he also realizes the implications that are going on in this match. So as he tries to gather himself and figure out his game plan, he does go in for the attack and almost wins it off a ridiculous rebound wheelbarrow superplex, sending Darby Allin to the next time zone. Close fall for Preston, as Darby Allin at this point was getting furious to try and beat this guy. He literally at this point was ripping the man's mask apart, biting and clawing into his head. And literally it was Preston who pushed forward into another gear and finally locked Darby Allin to the full Nelson. We were this close, because nobody usually gets out of it, to having a new TNT champion as literally was ragdolling this man like nothing, go figure. Almost put him to sleep, but Darby Allin somehow on instinct alone had to be. He finds the wherewithal to look towards the corner, use his legs and body for momentum, and traps Preston into a roll-up pinning type maneuver, amateur wrestling basics alone, and survives and wins via pinfall as we were going off the air. An incredible match that really tested Darby Allin against someone much more powerful than him, but also someone much more driven than him, as again, this was found mutual respect by both men because of one man, and that was, of course, Brody Lee. As Preston, of course, handed Darby Allin a Brody Lee wristband, Darby held it up, and both men, they embraced each other in exchange of respect as the Dark Order went on their way. Only for Scorpio Sky and him and Adam Page to once again rear their heads and attack Sting and Darby Allin, as Scorpio Sky got a chop block on Sting and Ethan Page isolated Darby Allin, and it was literally Scorpio Sky who trapped Sting in that damaging heel hook for the longest time. It wasn't until the Murder Hawk Lance Archer, who again seems to be on mutual respect with Sting, came out for the save, and Jake finally came out too, and the Dark Order Preston as well. As Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page ran off like scalded dogs, but the damage and the statement was done. Anyway, as we were going off the air, we find Lance, Sting, and Darby standing strong in the middle of the ring with Preston. And we find Jake on stage, probably wanting all hell what's going on here. As Scorpio Sky and Page look on, happy with what they've done, sending another message. They clearly want a piece of Sting. They clearly want their place at the top, and they'll use Darby Allin for it. And I feel like one of them wants that TNT title back too. And to be fair, even Page has not challenged Darby Allin yet for that title. But again, Darby Allin right now is focusing on being the best champion, respect to Brody Lee, and going through the Dark Order. And that's how he ended the show. Holy hell, what a wild and insane, competitive, action-packed, intense night of AEW Dynamite as we look forward towards what feels like a pay-per-view next week. Blood and Guts, where so many things I feel are going to be settled, but also so other things are going to be escalated too as we enter May and head towards now the home stretch, double or nothing. But another amazing show. And if I have to give top 5 moments, I'll give it to you like this too. I put it in this order. I look at the matches, the segments, the moments, the quality, what stuck out to me too. I give number 5, Cody Rhodes returning, emphatic statement to QT with a figure 4 layout on top of that bus. You gotta imagine that QT is gonna be infuriated by this. He's definitely gonna have his factory with him. It's gonna be very curious to see the outlook of this match next week. And we know Arn Ennis is gonna be in Cody's corner too. Chris Statlander, Penelope Ford definitely had a hell of a match. Great way to see this, I would say, budding feud end for now, or maybe continue into something bigger too. We'll have to wait and see. TNT title match is always a highlight for me when it really showcases this title in its own class, in its own way. Top tier main event, not necessarily like I think a workhorse title. I don't compare it to like other titles. It's a title of its own class. And I honestly feel like with the way they're presenting this championship, it could be as great as a legacy in longevity as the now retired big gold belt. I truly believe it can be that. Moving on from there, number 2, gotta give it to the parlay. Incredible, emphatic, passionate, intense, unscripted promos driven by rage, fury, and dominance in statement. And of course, proving who is the best family in AEW. The family since day one, or the family that has now come in the last 3 months. And of course, number 1, I gotta give it to the unorthodox, wild, stride-filled, kick-fest madness ensued between Orange Cassidy and Penta, with Alex and Trent. Solo involvement too. Overall, I really enjoyed that match. I'm really liking where this feud's going, and I gotta wonder, will it eventually mean Pac and Orange Cassidy gets revisited? Maybe Orange Cassidy gets the better of the Basta too? We'll have to wait and see. Bottom line is this, AEW always leaves me wanting more. I loved this show and episode tonight, and I can't wait to see what unfolds next week come the conclusion of Blood and Guts and AEW Dynamite. But that's all I gotta say for now, so thanks so much for tuning in. So let me know, what are your favorite thoughts, moments, matches, stars, anything regarding AEW, your thoughts and comments on AEW. Let me know in the comments down below or find me on Twitter. If you want to know more about me and connect with me more, then know this. I'm just a simple man. And if you haven't figured out by now, I am a lifelong fan of ... wrestling. So follow me on Twitter, @mfoster1916. Follow me on Instagram, @mfoster1916, for more wrestling memorabilia, shirts, and a positive outlook into your day from a happy, lifelong wrestling fan. Or you can keep following this YouTube channel, of course, at youtube.com/c/nofuster10 for all things wrestling. And shout out to my AEW fan on Twitter. We will be back with another AEW View. Topics yet to be determined. And there will be more continued simple takes on all things wrestling too, including but not limited to NWA, NJPW, NXT, and NXT UK combined. Ring of Honor. What a kickoff for the women's division of Ring of Honor too. I definitely will be back with more on that as well. Might turn the smaller shows into like a longer mini-sode together. And MLW too. Gotta respect MLW. And of course, Impact Wrestling, which will be tomorrow night. And as always, I like to close. Folks, there are no winners, there are no losers, there are no bears. There are just fans with their own outlooks and opinions on this passion we all share. So at the end of the day, support one another, respect each other, and just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling. Simple as that. With that being said, I thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and tell a friend. Hit the bell no unless video goes live on this channel or on demand. And hit the subscribe button. Help me keep growing this channel. Shout out to all 200 of you with me on this fun YouTuber greatest journey. It's not labeled anytime soon. I will be back with live content for you all in the near future too, especially as we enter summer. I promise you. Maybe I'll even start recapping one of my favorite promotions now gone, Lucha Underground. But we'll wait and see. But that's it for now. So as always, take care, enjoy your life. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. Treasure your families and enjoy wrestling. There's more of it now than ever. There's never been a more opportunistic and optimistic time to be a wrestling fan. And if you want another positive, other outlook to other things and all things wrestling too, then I encourage you to follow Turnbuckle's channel and my good friend Cindy G, who works in collab with him too. And follow the Bullet Cast and Cindy G on all her platforms, podcast, media, TikTok, and social media wise too. So again, folks, until next time, I hope you all be elite. May life continue to be too sweet. And as I have to, because I have stuff to do, I must bid you all a fine adieu. So in the immortal words of one of my all-time favorite wrestlers ever, Kenny Omega, I leave you with this. Goodbye, and good night. And thanks as always for tuning in. Bang.